And we're live.
And we are live, and it is a special Monday. I am pumped, because not only are we doing Salt Wolves of the Whale Road for Gallant Knight Games, and I'm really enjoying this map, but we have Levi Combs on the channel with us from Planet X Games. First, Levi, did I say your last name correctly?
Oh, yeah. The English spelling, yeah. All
right, fantastic, because I always get it wrong. Levi, it is freaking awesome to have you here. I know that you and I, we're kind of in the same social media circles, like a lot. We're on the same freaking Discord admin channel, for heaven's sake. But we don't talk that much like this. How you doing?
No, I'm doing good. I'm stoked to be on. I had a really good time. Like, I think you, Skeeter, and I were on like a year ago, something like that, and it was a really good hang. So I'm real happy to be back on.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's absolutely been a while. So we're just going to chill today. There's probably going to be about 10-15 minutes for people to start coming in, except for Alex Vixen. She is here already. Alex, it's so good to see you. But it'll take about 10-15 minutes, and we can start getting into the meat of all of this. Why don't you tell us, because we back up this on Twitch, obviously, we throw this video up onto YouTube, and people watch them after the fact. Tell us about, I was actually trying to describe Planet X Games to Jack earlier on, and I couldn't get the words to encapsulate the spirit of what you do, because you're kind of unique. Can you tell us what Planet X Games is?
So the old elevator pitch, no problem. See,
you're struggling with it, so I'm gonna get myself off the hook.
I like to call it the grindhouse aesthetic, and that basically boils down to where it's role-playing games. It's fast, it's simple, it's dirty, a little bit off-color at times, but really it boils down to like kind of a more cinematic approach to playing role-playing games. And I'm a big fan of RPGs in general, but especially Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy RPGs and things like that. So a lot of the stuff that I put out is really more geared towards, again, that cinematic approach, and it is fueled by my, love of genre movies and the grindhouse aesthetic. I'm a huge fan of those genre and exploitation movies from going as far back as the early '60s. All that stuff. All the variety of genre, flicks and B movies and just kind of lower caliber cinema for the time. The horror stuff, the action stuff, I like it all. And then on top of that, I'm a huge fan of just bad movies in general. Like I'll watch a really crappy movie, and it's going to be the best experience that it can be for me. Troll 2, or could be Samurai Cop, or Hard Ticket to Hawaii, or Miami Connection, or and there's just thousands of these
Human Tornado.
Forgotten. Oh yeah. These forgotten, and then there's those movies like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a grindhouse flick. It just became big. Halloween, same thing. Hills Have Eyes. These are movies that kind of launched those directors into superstardom, and they got to make bigger projects. But that kind of low budget aesthetic, that quick and dirty feel, that's kind of what I'm attempting to infuse the modules and the zines that I write. With that kind of that vibe.
I've seen the term grindhouse a lot in connection with Planet X. I didn't know that it was an actual phrase that described this type of genre.
Yeah, so grindhouses were basically, it boils down to they were these really crappy theaters where they would run like after a film had either gone through all of its paces, or if it was just a film that wasn't going to get mass distribution, they would put them in these cheap little theaters called grindhouses, where they would just grind the movies one after another 24/7. So you could go in at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and by midnight you'd already watched 6 of these horrible little B movies. and they were places where a lot of directors would get their starts. You know, they couldn't get their name on the map earlier, so they would they put out these little, these B movies and these little genre flicks, and they would go through these small theaters, and then maybe they would get discovered, maybe they wouldn't, but it was always entertaining. You get something out of it, man. It was some real gems came out of that genre.
I had no freaking idea. So Jack, you're actually a little bit of a grindhouse person, aren't you?
A little bit. I'm sure not as much as Levi, but I mean, if you think about it, the Hollywood theater that that I was a patron of for the longest time, pretty much pre-COVID, they had a whole bunch of film series that they would do, and it was a second-rate theater. They usually never had anything that was first run. They always got second run, and they would also do they also had 70 millimeter projection screen camera, so they'd be able to get these special Tarantino brought Hateful Eight up here when it first came out, and they show a lot of his stuff. But they at the first Tuesday of every month was Kung Fu Theater, and they would show all of these the great old Kung Fu movies, Master of the Flying Guillotine, and
I love them.
It was fantastic. It was so good, and so that was if you think about it, Alyssa, that's Hollywood theater would be, I probably considered, at least when it was up and running fully before the pandemic, that would definitely be a grindhouse theater for sure.
So one thing to be said about grindhouses, though, these were places of ill repute. It was the kind of place where a lot of them were along 46th Street in New York. That's kind of like where the big heyday was. And these were places where people were smoking. Folks would come in and sleep. Gotcha. They pay the tickets, and they would sleep inside. There was no telling all kinds of illicit activity, drugs, all that sort of thing going on in those places. It was not a safe place for younger folk, and it was right down there. It was right down in the heart of New York City too. So this is before Giuliani cleaned it up, when it was just the Wild West. It was just a craziness, the crime was everywhere, and that's where the birth of those grindhouse cinemas came from.
Gotcha. All right. Well, an addendum then to what I said. It is definitely not a grindhouse theater, but it has a certain element of the grindhouse. It's a small taste of it, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think they necessarily really exist so much in the U.S. anymore. Not like they did, and that's. I mean, on one hand, it's sad to see that sort of thing kind of pass on. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be a certain amount of nostalgia for it, but generally, it's probably a good thing. Right. That those places, that those places are not in the majority anymore.
Right.
You wouldn't want your kids going to see, Seven Brides of Blood,
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, we're going to take little Timmy to see Driller Killer at the local grindhouse. No, don't think that's going to work. No.
Yeah, I do want to give a special shout out, by the way, guys. We've got Shane Mack in here. Good to see you, Shane. He says, "I made it!" ! And Rosmere, thank you very much. Jack, keep an eye on the chat, because people are throwing in the odd little comments here as well.
Yeah, Alex Vixen is bringing up The Black Bat. Great movie. Rosmere said, I usually only watch bad movies if Riff Tracks is playing them, and then they play quite a few. Nice.
And Alex Vixen apparently did a weekend 30 to 35 B movies once in a grindhouse. Wow. Best movie experience she's ever had, she says.
I spent the entire weekend wow, that's crazy. Whew.
That sounds like a dream.
So, Levi, how does this then translate into what you then release for the tabletop role-playing industry?
Well, I mean, it starts with the titles. I mean, if you look at the titles of some of the stuff I've done, our first one was called Jungle Tomb of the Mummy Bride. That is this cannibal exploitation, just Aztec mummy meets Abbott and Costello sort of. It just comes from that very same cloth. And then you get stuff like Occurrence at Howling Crater or Escape from Skullcano Island. These are all, on one hand, they kind of have that OSR feel of, here's an adjective, here's a verb, here's a cool location.
Right.
The White Plume Mountain, or was it the Isle of Dread, or expedition to the Barrier Peaks? That sort of thing. So it starts with the name, but really, when the aesthetic of playing them and the way that they're laid out, like I said, very quick, very dirty, a lot like a grindhouse film.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they were cheaply made, but they unfortunately are not. But I try to have that sort of vibe, and when I play them at cons or I play them with my friends, it's very fast. There's I don't like to get lagged down with a bunch of rules. Not to say that there's not rules, but I don't like to get bogged down with, looking up something for 10 minutes, or trying to figure out exactly what something does. I like to go fast, rule of cool kind of stuff, let's just all have a really good time. If we get in a pinch and we need to consult the rules, sure, let's do it. But I'm more about that fast and fun play.
Do you find that there's any challenges, like writing for something like 5e and still keeping it fast like that?
Yes, most definitely. So the challenge was writing. I just did a high level adventure for 5e, and it took longer than the first 3 that I did. If you combined all those, the 5e high level adventure took longer to write than all of those. Precisely because 5e it's a bit more difficult to write for. Rather than your just typical OSR, BX, 1e kind of stuff, or something like OSE or Swords and Wizardry, that sort of more basic system. As I've gotten older, I found that, personally, I enjoy running and playing those far more than I do the more convoluted rule sets. So that's something that I like to kind of transport over to anything that I'm writing.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Nobody wants to look at that wall of text, that 3 pages of just, story. I'm looking for, like, here's half a page, and then let's have some bullet points. Let's get right into it. You don't need me to tell you, that the evil sorcerer's brother has a cow that had, was lame in one foot. He had to get the medicine from this witch. You don't need all that backstory. You don't need that. What you need is you need to know, hey, he's friends with this guy. He doesn't like this guy. And here's 2 or 3 other things, and then go run with it. Go for it. What's the old adage? It's show, don't tell.
Right.
So.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's one of the. I've yet to ever run a convention game, just because I usually am the player, not a GM, for the most part. But I've been looking into doing it, running some games at conventions. But my preferred system that I like to write for, at least, is Shadowrun, and talk about a rules heavy. This is gonna bog down real fast. So I've been toying with the idea of creating like like a convention version of the rules. Since I don't work for Catalyst and would never be backed by them going into a convention. It's not like they're going to come after me and be like, you can't butcher our rule set. I could just be like, no, I can do whatever the hell I want. Get out of here. It's my game. Right. So yeah, that's, keeping it fast and loose like that. It sounds that's what you want. That's what you want. You want a quick and dirty game. Get them in there. Get them in the action.
And if you're not making any money off of it, do whatever you want. You can, if you would take Shadowrun or Call of Cthulhu. I've run Call of Cthulhu with the barest of rule sets. Literally, here's half a page of your character's half a page, and it was, it's there's so much role playing in it anyways that the rules for a game like that are almost almost an afterthought. And I see a lot of systems are really kind of going more towards that fast and kind of a quicker rule set. There's the OSR crowd, of course, that came over, but even a game like Mork Borg, are you familiar with Mork Borg?
I know the name, but I don't know anything about the system.
It's like a Norwegian death metal RPG. If
nice.
Norwegian death metal was a song, was an RPG, it would be Mork Borg.
Gotcha.
It's impeccably laid out. It's beautiful to look at. I don't really understand the rules. I've looked over it a couple times, and I can't really suss out the rules, so I'm waiting to play it at a convention.
Gotcha. Get a better feel of it. Okay.
But the themes are all there. The same way that I like to do genre stuff, and I'll infuse all these themes into the stuff that I write. a game like Morborg, it really relies heavily on those themes. And I see a lot more RPGs are kind of going towards it. You got like Troika, and like I said, Morborg, and a lot of. I picked up this one the other day. Like I just picked up this. As a matter of fact, this Monsters of the Underworld. This book right here.
Oh, nice.
It's so beautiful. It's
nice.
so gorgeous. But you open it up, and it's just. I mean, the whole book. Let me put this out there. Gorgeous. And I don't know any of these people. I just, like I said, I got it because it looked great. But then you open it up and it's just rules. But as an art book, it's gorgeous.
Fantastic, nice.
Oh my gosh,
nice.
And if you like 5e, it's like a must-have. And I do enjoy 5e, but more playing it than I do running it. So.
Funnily enough, that's actually reminds me. I backed a Kickstarter. It was for an RPG book, and I couldn't tell you what I could probably find it. Let me look at it. I couldn't tell you what game it was or what system it was for or anything. I got it for the art because I was like, this is so bitchin'. So it's probably like the most expensive art book, I could have got, probably. Oh, here we go. Cult Divinity Lost. Cult with a K. Okay. I was like, and then I actually saw somebody talking about the Cult role-playing game online, and I was like, oh, people actually play this? This is actually a thing? I didn't know. I was getting it pure because the art was amazing.
Well, I remember Cult was wasn't it like a 90s role-playing game?
Was it? I don't know. I
can remember seeing ads for it in Dragon Magazine. I believe it was Dragon Magazine, or maybe I saw it on a shelf somewhere, but I never played it. I never knew anybody who did play it or even who had it, but I just remember those ads. And the ads were they were kind of like chill, but like kicked up another notch. It was kind of you knew it was going to be like a horror or kind of like a suspense kind of game.
Gotcha.
But darker. It was going to be not quite the World of Darkness sort of level with clans and vampires and werewolves. This was more like kind of like supernatural and
Gotcha.
Occult kind of stuff. That's the feeling that you got off that.
So Shane O'Mac in the chat says, Shane O'Mac 81 says that for them, the Ultraviolet Grasslands RPG is kind of like that too. It's like, someone run that for me, please.
Yes. Yeah, most definitely. So Ultraviolet Grasslands, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. And again, this is the whole onslaught of kind of indie gaming that's come a lot. The indie publishers that has come the last 5 to 7 years. Ultraviolet or UVG as they call it. It's so gorgeous. It's so pretty. Like it's such a beautiful book to look at. In the person responsible, Luca, I wish I could pronounce his last name, but genius. Just the whole aesthetic, the whole feel of the book, the vibe. It's very cool, man. If you get a chance, look that up sometime. UVG, Ultraviolet Grasslands. He's absolutely right. It's good stuff.
Nice. And Ross Meir says that's kind of the beauty of any game. You can make it what you want it to be. It's nice to have some rules set in stone, but changing things up on the fly to fit your game style is better for making sure it's better for your game group is
better.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, I kind of butchered that, Ross Meir, but I got it. I got there.
I think that was just yeah.
And Alex Vixen says, as a GM, I have transformed several old B movies into D&D adventures and used them as the basis for several others, and made some of the Isles of Terror in Ravenloft the Haven of Travail, meaning the entire island's horror and terror aspects come from B movies and grindhouse-style flicks.
No, most excellent. That's fantastic.
That's very cool. And Princess Strega agrees with us. That's very cool.
I mean, those, and they're great for hex crawls. The grindhouse stuff, like that. So essentially, what you're getting when you watch a grindhouse movie or like one of those old B horror movies, or like a Hammer horror movie, is you're getting a small story. You're not getting a large convoluted thing like Dracula or Lord of the Rings or anything like that. There's not a long spanning time. You're getting something set, in basically in a hex. So they're great for hex crawls, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That's a hex crawl. They just stumble upon that ruined farmhouse by accident, and oh no, look what happened, Or Attack of the Puppet People, they just stopped in the wrong town. The Birds, they just happen to be passing through this area, and then things are going crazy. So, that's this whole aesthetic, like he's saying of taking old B movies and kind of converting them over. It's perfect for the hex crawl. You know, it's perfect for that overland map. Like, what happens between point A here on the coast and point B way up here in the mountains? You know, we've got 50 hexes across. What happens? You know, and that whole conversion method, it's great.
Nice. Princess Strega, Alyssa wants to tell you that the border work you are doing is looking amazing.
Thank you very much. This map, I think, is going to be really a lot about the border. And I mean that in a very complimentary way. I'm very happy with how this thing is shaping out. In fact, I didn't even schedule today to actually work on the borders, but I'm enjoying listening to Levi, and I'm like, I'm just going to turn my brain off a little bit here, and I'm just going to work on borders rather than figuring out mountains. We can do mountains tomorrow.
Yeah, just enjoying the conversation and
That's the first time anybody who's ever said enjoying listening to Levi.
You missed the brain off bit, man.
No, but I understand that, you know, when you're wanting to actually engage, that's actually sometimes, you know, I watch, I work from home, and so I'm able to watch, watch films or what have you while I'm working. But the thing is if there's ever a film that I actually want to watch, I can't watch it while I'm working, because there's certain things I can watch and I can just have a brain off and just have it running off in the background. But there are certain things if I'm wanting to pay attention to or actually learn something from, no, sorry, can't watch it while I'm working. It might, my brain needs to be on for those types of things. So I get it.
Man, Amazon Prime has this. I mean, there's Shudder, of course, but Amazon Prime, they have this collection of grindhouse flicks that is just unparalleled as far as like what's streaming. And it goes from horror to action to, and then all the little tiny variants of exploitation films. Like you'll get like Hicksploitation, which is just like these, depraved hillbillies, that are out in the woods, luring travelers in. That has this whole subgenre. Movies like movies like Hills Have Eyes or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Gator Bait. There's all these movies that ride off Hicksploitation.
Oh, indeed.
And then you'll have like Cannibal-sploitation. It's just all about like the wild jungles of the South, and it's tribesmen and dinosaurs, things like that. And there's even like stuff like Nun-sploitation, where it's like, there's a nun with a gun. Oh yeah, Miss 45, or a Thriller, A Cruel Picture, or there's one with Pam Grier too. But it's always about like a revenge story, but it's a nun and she has a pistol and bright red lipstick, or there's she's got a shotgun and she's trying to find who killed her. her friend or whatever, it's so insane, just some of the plot lines and stories. But just when you think you've gotten kind of to the end of what those subgenres of the grindhouse aesthetic are going to be, you'll find something new, just something even more ridiculous. There's slime exploitation, there's all kinds of stuff. Yeah, it's ridiculous. You can really go down a rabbit hole.
Princess Strega and I are in the same boat when you were saying that. She said Amazon has a grindhouse section. That was kind of where my head's at too. It's like, oh, I need to look into that. And then Shane O'Mac says there's the free movie app called Tubi that I guess is swimming with grindhouse and B movies as well. It's pretty awesome. Tubi, Tubi.
Be writing that down.
Yeah, exactly. I was just saying, making notes here. And then Strega confirms, there are lots of nunsploitation movies. I didn't even know that was a thing. That's crazy.
Yeah, it gets kind of. Some of. All right, so like any good thing, you have your bad movies or exploitation films they're good precisely because they don't know they're bad. You get a film like Troll 2, which is so bad, but it doesn't they think they're making the greatest movie that's ever been made.
Right.
They don't realize that it's bad, and then when you go back and watch it, it's glorious at how bad it is. Or like Samurai Cop, same way, or The Room with Tommy Wiseau.
One of the most notorious. Yeah.
Oh God, if you've never seen The Room, if you're listening to this, and you've never seen The Room, I beg you, just go right now and go watch it.
Well, not right now. Wait till after the stream.
Wait till after the stream.
It is the worst film maybe ever put to celluloid, but it's fantastic in its badness. And
it's actually a great double feature too. If you watch The Room and then immediately followed it up with The Disaster Artist that they did,
yeah.
It is actually, it's such a weird, because it's obviously it's a stylized take on the making of the Room,
yes.
It was so weird how much they hit the nail on the head with that movie. It was
so
just
good.
Like, oh my god, yes. Oh, hi, Mark, says Ross Muir. One of the most notorious lines from The Room. Oh, out of all of the numerous lines from the Room.
Oh, it's so good. Sometimes you get a film like it's called Roar. Have you heard of this movie?
No, what's Roar?
So Roar is this basically it's a killer animal movie.
Okay.
Like Grizzly or Razorback or any of those kind of movies.
Okay.
But they filmed it with real actors and real animals. And apparently they didn't have the budget for a whole lot of like animal trainers.
Oh.
So people on the set are getting attacked by like lions.
Oh,
or they're getting knocked over by tigers, and like bears are just kind of biting on people. Like it's insane. And a fairly famous young actress, I'm trying to remember who it was, but she was on the set of that, and she got bit. Like it was like a thing. Like the whole production got sued, and there was there's a whole like a story behind that movie, so that when you're watching it and you're seeing these people like these lions jumping up on people and like knocking them over and kind of chewing on them a little bit, you're like, that doesn't seem like it's staged,
No.
Yeah, check that out, man. Sometime. Roar. It might even be on Amazon.
Alex Vixen, saying Roar is notorious. Some of the actors nearly died.
Yeah.
Oh my
That's
Lord.
nuts. That's nuts. I do want to give a quick shout out to Nathan and to Noble Dwarf. It's awesome seeing you both here. This is kind of the map that we're on so far. Noble, this thing on canvas, this is going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be a classic. Thanks everyone for joining. This is Levi Combs with us, not Jack, Levi Combs. And he's from Planet X Games. And Planet X Games, they do, Levi does, like adventure material settings for the tabletop RPG industry, but with a twist. It's all Grindhouse inspired. I've been getting my learn on tonight about just even what Grindhouse is and the fact that there's subgenres. And that's what Levi does.
Oh, we do zines too. I mean, I've
oh yeah, you do.
Huge fan of fanzines, and that goes all the way back to when I was a kid. I've told this story on other podcasts before, but I think it's worth repeating here for Jack. When I was a kid, there was these. They had magazines like Starlog and Fangoria.
Oh yeah.
And in the back of those, this is before the internet. So in the back of those, they had these not personals, but like little pages like where you could join mailing lists or order catalogs, or you'd get into like a fanzine, like a loop, where you would contribute and then everybody else would send you their stuff. They would compile it, send you a fanzine.
Right.
So being an only child and being living at a dead end road in a very, very small town, I would just order. I mean, I would sign up for everything. If it was in the back of Fangoria or in the back of Starlog or any of these famous monsters of Filmland or whatever, I'd order off for that. I'd save up and get my stamps, and I'd write letters and whatnot, or self-addressed stamped envelopes. And most of the time you wouldn't hear back, or you'd get a catalog, and it would just be stuff you couldn't afford, especially as like a 12 or 13-year-old kid.
Right.
But I got into this fanzine loop, where it was all people who were much, much older than me. And, the little thing says, "Are you 18?" I said, "Oh, yeah, let me write it."
Yeah, of course I am.
I'm getting stuff in the mail, like, every month. Like I get like a big package, but like a big envelope, like an old manila envelope. And you open it up and it was just sheets and sheets and sheets of people's art, and I would I'd have to draw something and send it off as well. And I remember this went on for a couple months, and then I get home from school one day and my mom's like, "All right, come over here." what is this? And she's opened up the package. She's like, I keep seeing these come in. So she's going through them, you know, and some of it's just like your typical, like, you know, comic book ripoff stuff and
right.
You know, whatever. And then she gets to my selection. And remember, I'm 13 years old here. And my selection was a takeoff of, this is terrible, a takeoff of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it was forgive me, it was Turbo Titty Ninja Nuns with my little piece of art that I contributed for the zine. And she's like, what is this? You know, like, look, you've got like, you know, C's and D's. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, you need to refocus. So then it comes out like, oh yeah, like she goes, who's this guy? I'm like, oh, he's the guy who runs it. And she's like, well, how do you know him? I was like, oh, I don't know him. It's just, you know, I'm just sending him artwork. And she's like, no, you can't send strangers things in the mail, you dummy.
Oh no.
To me, you know, like I was just trying to get in on something, I guess. But,
yeah, totally.
So my love of fanzines started there, and just all through high school. You know, I'd go to like a record store in a big city of Little Rock, or you know, I'd end up someplace, and if they had the little, you know, fanzines for like punk music or like heavy metal music, I would pick those up. And I never kind of really just never abandoned those. You know, I was always kind of picking stuff up. You know, and they're always made of the cheapest material. You know, you get them and they fall apart pretty easily. Right. But they always fascinate. And I always said to myself one day, I'm going to do some zines. And then this whole, you know, kind of revolution for zines came along for RPGs. I thought, if I'm ever going to do it, this is the time.
Right.
So let me try.
Nice. Now, do you stick to kind of like your grindhouse theme with your zines, or do you kind of spread them out like to other kind of genres or categories? Or
it's all over the place. I've done a couple so far, and I've got a bunch of others in development that are coming out this year.
Nice.
The kind of the flagship zine is we call it the Phylactery. It's it's basically like it kind of harkens back to like the old Ardwin Grimoire or Dragon Tree Press products, where you get this little product and there's not a whole lot of charts, but it's just packed full of information.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I just collaborated with some really, really talented artists. And then the other half of Planet X is our layout and design guru, Tracy Steele. We just put together these little zines, and we're able to get so much content out because we really do jam pack those things full.
Right.
And then I did it was kind of an homage to my love of heavy metal meets RPGs, because I didn't really realize it growing up, but there really is a kind of a subsection of RPGs that meets the heavy metal movement of the 80s pretty firmly. Right. You know, and I didn't really realize it until much later on. Like, those are pretty interwoven. Like, you pick up something like DCC, and it's all over DCC. You know,
nice.
Something like that. So I wanted to do something that was just very focused. So it's an homage to my love of 80s heavy metal, but it's also magic items. So it mixes the two, and cool. You know, we called it Magic and Shit.
Nice. Very, very, very fitting. That's cool. That's very cool. Nice.
But there's other ones coming up, man. There's we'll keep running the Phylactery for as long as it's fun to do. Right. But we've got one coming out at Halloween called, let me see if I can get this right. It's King Tut's Rootin' Tootin' RPG Extravaganza and Western Wear.
Oh, indeed.
That's the name of the zine.
Nice.
And it's kind of like a weird West, kind of famous monsters of filmland meets, you know, spaghetti Western.
That's very
24
cool.
pages. Yeah, 24 pages of fun stuff that I'm doing with a couple really talented collaborators. So
nice.
Yeah. And like I said, we've got stuff planned for, you know, going pretty far out. So I'm pretty stoked about some of the craziness that's coming out.
Nice. Strega says, "What a title for that one!" And then Noble Dwarf comes in and says, "The art is really cool for the magic and shit." And
thanks, Mark.
And then they can't wait to see the cover of that King Tut one.
Oh yeah, man. Like this, it's kind of a misnomer. It's almost like a little joke, because I mean, what a mouthful. How do you, how that's a lot to say. It's not really a strong selling point, but I'm not really doing that one to sell a bunch of copies. It's just something I want to do.
Right.
And I had this collection of ideas and kind of like short adventures, some cool monsters that kind of fit into that Weird West. So I thought, let me make a hodgepodge of cool stuff that somebody who's running a Weird West adventure can do, and throw that in. There's one of the adventures, and they're all mini adventures, so nothing long. But one of the mini adventures is called The Town That Dreaded Cream Filling. And it's essentially, it's crazy, but it's essentially it's like what happens if Twinkie the Kid goes bad, like his expiration date has passed, he has gone bad,
Gotcha.
And you set it up in a way where, like, the fact that there are fruit filling people and nugget children and
Right.
Twinkie is the gunfighter in the town, none of that is off-putting, none of that is weird. The people, if you think that's weird, you're the one who's weird. It's kind of
Gotcha.
presented in that fashion.
Nice. And that's kind of perfect for con play, if you think about it, especially when you sometimes can sit at a table, and as long as the GM at the table is like, this is the world that you live in, so none of this is weird to you. Kind of sets everybody's brain into the
right.
I am a fruit filled pastry person. I'm good. This is it. That just makes sense. And
it doesn't hurt that this Twinkie or Twanky, the kid, he's deadly with those 6-shooters, man. I mean, if you get to heaven and you get to tell God that you got killed by Twinkie the Kid, that's on you, man.
Nice. That's funny. Yes, Stringer, exactly. I'm not weird. You're weird. Exactly. That's
another one of those things for fun hex crawls. There's and that's just the funny little adventure that I put in there. There's some more serious, and with heavy quotations, serious stuff that you could use for your Weird West. Nice. Dark trails kind of stuff.
Nice. Green Lantern in the chat. Hello all. Hello Loontoon.
Hey Green Loontoon. So Levi, if I could find my freaking mouse pointer, you know what? Let's just do it this way. Let's bring up my Discord here, because you sent some pictures over earlier on, and I'm going to open these up. You want to walk us through this? So this is a cover of the phylactery that you've got right here.
Oh yeah.
And with some side art. So tell us about, what is this? You were talking about artwork before. Some of this is awesome, by the way.
So the cover of the phylactery is done by Ed Bickford. Ed he's kind of the new guy in our little circle of friends, but he's worked on a bunch of projects with me. He's a super, super talented illustrator. He did an homage of Uncanny X-Men 142. If anybody who's familiar with the old school X-Men comics, it's a total homage cover. But the idea is, we kind of put some of our friends in the in those boxes. Like,
oh yeah, I see Skeet and goddammit Zach. Yeah, okay.
Casey's in there, and then you'll see Jim Wampler in there, but his name is backwards, like the old school how they used to do it in the old early days of Greyhawk.
Oh yeah,
totally.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Reltmaw.
Yeah. When we put Zach in there too, but I told the artist to put him in a still suit, like in Dune.
That's fantastic.
Little nose,
That's fantastic.
But the center square there, the question mark is it's open because one of the highest tier in the Kickstarter is that you can get your face and your name put in there.
Oh, cool.
And we're doing as many of those basically as people want. I think it's up to something like 15 or 20 people who have chosen that reward tier. So they all get their own personalized cover by Ed with their face there in the middle.
Nice. And yeah, and for people that aren't familiar with that particular comic cover, I'm going to I'm putting a link in the chat. It's one of the most famous X-Men comics and covers Yeah, sorry, apologies for the quality of the image that I linked. I was just trying to find one that was big enough that you could get the gist of it.
And is this the Kickstarter that I'm showing right here? Levi, I just want to bring this across. Phylactery?
Phylactery 3, yeah.
3?
Yes, the Phylactery 3. It should be.
I must have found an old one. Yeah, I must have found an old one.
If you just search on Kickstarter for Phylactery 3, or just put in Phylactery 3 into Google, it'll come right up. Yeah, it's the same as the ones that have come before. It's a 48-page zine. You know, again, kind of just jam-packed full of, you know, NPCs, magic items, locations. You know, there's a mini adventure in there. There's new monsters. I mean, it's kind of a
massively funded, with just 24 hours to go. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it did good this time.
Now, do you tend to keep your stuff? Do you tend to keep your stuff kind of like systemless so it can be used across, or do you just stick to kind of like the D&D or OSR style, like you know, rule systems?
So everything in the Phylactery zines is done OSR, basically first edition.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I do them, I have those 3 core books. You know, the old 3 trusty first ed books there. You know, when I'm doing them. But you know, that system is so easy. It's so familiar for, you know, 99% of the people. They can take it and go, oh, well, you know, this means this. You know, this plus translates to this, and it's all pretty rules light. So most of what you're getting is just like flavor and fun and details and, like, you know, little things, little bits of crunch that you can throw into your game. The idea is to really go from the page to the table. Like, I want you to take, I want you to get, when you get that book, I want you to go, I don't need that, but I like that. Let me put that in there. I don't need that. Let me put that in there. You know, you don't, so that you can get a lot of mileage out of one book.
Right.
You know,
right.
That's the idea.
Nice.
That's what I love so much about those old Arduin Grimoire books. You know, for years people just, you know, talked about them like they were trash, but there's been like a resurgence last, you know, 8-10 years, people really loving those things again. I'm glad to see that they're finally getting their due, because they're just treasure troves of cool adventure hooks and ideas and stuff that really fires the imagination.
Yeah, that reminds me of and I don't think the ones that I'm thinking of are the ones that you're referring to, but that kind of reminds me of the ones that oh gosh, was it AEG that put them out a long time ago? The the toolboxes, or the I think they were all for 3.5 or 3.0 or whatever back when D&D.
I remember those,
things. But they were all about, like, there was one series that was all about like you know, adventure hooks. There was one where it was all about you know, things. But every single book, it was like tables upon tables upon tables of just, it was like if you wanted to have a random roll for something, whatever it may be, they had it. It's like they so many of those books. I loved them. I couldn't get enough of them.
Those old AEG products are really great, but, you know, tables and charts specifically, I stay away from the Phylactery.
Okay.
I try to, or if I have a table, I really try to make it detailed. You know, I just feel like there's so much material out there that people already have in one form or the other in a dozen other books. You know, I can give you a Wandering Monster table and it'll take up a page. But, you know, you probably got, you know, 5 other Wandering Monster tables for the swamp in these other products. Right. So let me give you something different. Let me give you something new. If I'm going to do a Wandering Monster table for a swamp, then I'm going to describe, you know, it might be 1 D3 swamp hags, but what they're doing. This is the treasure they have. Hey, but this is also the back end motive, you know, or whatever. Right.
Like, let me give you a specific swamp with specific residences, and maybe there's a couple cool new monsters here that I'm introducing, not just a generic.
You can crop and take whatever you want from that and put it in your own campaign.
Well, that sounds way better. That sounds way better.
But you know, there's just so much material that just gets duplicated over and over and over again. I mean, if you own the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, do you really need another Wandering Monster table?
Right.
Probably
exactly.
Not. You know, he gets pretty detailed in there. You know.
Right.
Well, I've got to ask. I have to ask, because I saw this map a while ago. It's a freaking map, right? This is ultimately a mapping channel. So I got to ask about this piece by Allah. and I'm going to scroll down to it. I actually love all of the artwork. I'm serious, but I got to ask about this one.
Well, Allah's a treasure.
Yeah, she is.
Anybody that knows her or has just worked with her or worked alongside her knows this. She's a super talented illustrator, and I really like the place she comes from. She says, "Well, I kind of want to do things that are fun for me, so I don't get sick of it." You know, I wish I could do that. Like I wish I had that.
I wish I could do this.
Mindset that was
this is
so
awesome.
shitty, you know? But I don't, unfortunately. But she's super talented, man, and that piece originally appered in the Black Lung zine, which I believe we were.
That's where I saw
yes,
it.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yes, indeed.
Yep, and that adventure was my entry into for Black Lung, and then once kind of the funding period for Black Lung had died down, I said, well, let me take. So I went ahead and paid Allah for the work, and said, hey, do you want to collaborate some? And she did some extra stuff there, and it just came out just looking great. And talk about somebody who's a joy to work with. It's like, I mean, sometimes you meet those artists or illustrators who are one or the other. They're either artists and they're really good at doing one thing, or they're an illustrator and they can really turn things in on time. Or then sometimes you meet somebody like her who's both. Right. And Adrian Landeros, he's also got some artwork there in the book. He's the same way. They're both just the kind of artists that you just, oh man, you just hope that you run into and get a chance to collaborate with and work with. And then when you do, man, you just get such cool stuff.
Nice. That's like I worked with him a little bit on the Black Lung, but Wonky Art or Keelan, Haverson. So he was a lot of fun to work with. Even with when we even had a bit of a misunderstanding like at the beginning of our thing, but just being able to talk to him so candidly, and then him just being able to like come back with really fun, cool ideas and stuff. And it's great when you find someone who's so cool like that.
Oh yeah, I've worked with Keelan several times now. He did some artwork for this one, Glimmering Crypt of the Iron King.
Nice. Which
is getting ready to ship out the backers. And then he did his first work, I think, for us was Skullcano Island.
For Skullcano, nice.
Yeah, he did a bunch of work for that. And again, just he's one of those guys where I could be like, okay, well, in the broadest sense, this is what I need. Just put your own little spin on it. And then, I'm thinking it's going to come in and there's, this is kind of the idea I have for it. But then he turns in the piece and I'm like, oh, this is so much better than my vision, But it's really the kind of, the joy that you get from working with such talented guys like that.
Totally. Nice.
And he's a good dude too. Like I met him at the 2019 North Texas.
Oh yeah, us too. That's where we first met him. Perfect.
Yeah, he's just a good guy, man. And Keelan, if you're listening, congratulations on buying your first house. That was today.
Yeah, I actually saw he posted about that. That's fantastic. That's so great for him. Yeah.
You actually, I want to work with Keelan more because I've had him coloring some of my maps or recoloring some of them, and he does pretty good work. But he's never available to me because he's working for people like you.
I think Ben, our friend Ben Barsh, has got him tied up with quite a bit as well. So,
nice.
He did some really cool stuff for Pace Setter that was visually just very vibrant and cool. Very striking. And I love seeing people like him succeed. Because he has a real passion, like a real drive to create these cool things, and when you meet him in person, he's such a sweetheart. It's a
so
dude.
humble.
Yeah, great, and just idolizes all the same greats that I idolize. So it's like he loves Errol Otis as much as I do.
Nice, yeah, totally.
What are your, so what are the artists that really, for you guys, what are the artists that were the kind of the benchmark for this hobby is what I'm saying, not like in a grander sense, but for the RPG hobby, what were those benchmark artists for you guys?
Chrysocleos, Elmore, of course. God. Oh, and easily, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Easily.
I mean, Titans.
But and Laubenstein too. Jeff Laubenstein.
Yeah,
I really love Jeff
Laubenstein.
Laubenstein's work a huge amount. But I think, the most evocative of them all was Elmore does a lot. With the whole Dragonlance, obviously, that he does. That definitely influenced me. But easily is the one that just like blew me away. And I think it was like the Caves of Shakanth or something, or however you pronounce it, and with the vampire in there. And that just stunned me. It just like I would sit there just mesmerized by this piece. And years later, I actually had the good fortune to contact him on like through Facebook or something, and he actually drew me another version of it. She was now awake and walking towards you. And so it's an original that I own here, and it's just freaking awesome. It's freaking awesome.
What a treasure.
Oh, yeah.
What a treasure that is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Because he said, I can't draw you the same one again, because obviously that kind of whole concept is copyrighted. So here's another version. I'm like, all right, no, this is fucking badass.
A couple of suggestions in the chat. Princess Strega, she says Wayne Reynolds for her. She really liked how he brought Galorian to life, the Pathfinder world setting. Nathan Craig says Frazetta.
Yeah, Frazetta's good. Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. I like Alyssa said, Laubenstein for me was a big one. And then who was Lockwood was a big one for me too. I mean, obviously he did other pieces too for fiction novels and stuff, as opposed to just purely RPG. But easily as well, of course.
So Laubenstein, what were his key pieces?
He did a lot of stuff for the early Shadowrun.
Yeah. If you look at a Shadowrun front cover from back in the day, it's his.
Oh, okay. I know that guy. So is that the same Neuromancer? The cyberpunk stuff as well? There was a whole...
I don't know, actually.
Actually, I actually don't know either. I'm actually trying to pull it up real quick. Let's see. I know he's done stuff for Magic the Gathering.
When you say
that's his recent stuff.
Are you talking about the one where it's it's nighttime? They're at the terminal.
Yes, that's one of his pieces. Yeah.
Okay, I remember that one. Yeah, that's good stuff, man. I was always a fan of Daniel Horn was a big one for me. And of course, Trampier. He has that weird sort of style that was like halfway between like a cartoon or a comic, and then being super serious work. They kind of merged in the middle. And apparently, he was really fast at drawing, so he could pump out a lot of stuff.
Nice.
I hate that type of guy. Jesus Christ, I hate that type of guy.
The ones that can just churn out the art.
So back in England, before the internet was even a twinkle in anyone's eye, my gaming group, we wanted to actually get our characters drawn. Well, so there was some guy advertising in the local library or something. It was some zine, however it was. And he came around to our house where we had the game going, and he interviewed all of us very quickly, and he drew out freaking sketches right when we were there that were just blowing. They were just like, what the frick have you just... It was just stunning. It was like, oh, like this and this and this and this. It was like, holy shit, dude, I wish I had this ounce of your talent. And it's just as he was talking to us, and he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, no problem, I'll get these finished up and I'll get them to you. We never heard from him again. Never heard from him. And it was so sad. It was such a sad, because there was such good freaking drawings, and he did it just sitting there talking to us. I wish I could do that shit.
Yeah, that's actually funny. There was actually a guy back when I would actually commission artwork done, when we used to do, I mainly did it for like our homebrew stuff that we were doing. I would actually get art commissioned for different things. But then, when Alyssa and I were, tipping our toe into doing stuff for the, our RPG, releases as well. This is, God, 8 years ago now. There was a guy that we started working with. His name was Jeff Hill. Unfortunately, he doesn't do art for like RPGs and fantasy stuff anymore because he actually got like a digital artist. Like he got one of those full-time jobs you hear about, you know. And so he ended up dropping off the map, which was really unfortunate because he was the type of guy. He got really into like RPG work as well. So much so that he was sending stuff back to us so quickly. And we were paying him just out of our own funding while we because we were just working our day jobs, you know. So we were like, you know, we've got a little bit of money saved up on the side. Let's pay off somebody. So he was churning out stuff so fast for us that we were like, slow down, please.
Please stop sending his artwork.
We love your work and we like paying you on time. And because we like paying you on time, slow down. Because we can't do, like, every couple of days we can't be paying you for more artwork. We gotta make money ourselves first before we can pay you. He was so good. It's a shame he doesn't do work for the industry anymore.
In the realm of publishing problems, I guess that's one of the better ones to have.
Right, exactly. Having an artist that's just constantly, because you either have ones like Alyssa where you never hear from them again, or they're just so slow. You know, that's the other thing. I actually had there's a great artist, and I don't want to besmirch his name by all means, but his name is Nathan Rosario. He's actually done some great work. But the thing is because he was always so busy, you would contact him for work and it would take forever for a turnaround to come back, and he would never turn you down. He'd be like, sure, I'll work, but it would be like, I'll put you in the queue and you'll get something like 6 months later, and it's just like, oh man, I love your stuff, but come on, you're killing me here. You know. But that's
I learned a hard lesson early on with the self-publishing thing to where I needed to give artists enough lead time. Right. You know, and I just, you know, there was a couple times where I just had to duplicate my own work, or not duplicate my own work, but where I would hire somebody and then I wouldn't hear from them for a long time. And then I would think, well, they're not answering emails. They've just dropped off. All right. And then I would commission somebody else for the work. And then, you know, like clockwork, a month later, here comes 8 pieces, you know, or whatever. I'm like, right. Oh, you were just saving them up. Oh, okay. We're all artists. We're a quirky bunch, man. So it's all good. You find the people that you can collaborate with and that you feel at ease with, and you feel like you can get the best out of each other, and it, you know, all kinds of work. You know, all works out in the end. Usually, you know. That's been one of the bigger joys of the self-publishing, is meeting all these artists. It's so many of them. They're such unique personalities, and they're all different. Nobody's the same, and they're also cool. Like we have such a good time. Like just sitting, you know, I'll call Ed Bickford up, you know, and you know, 45 minutes have gone by. We haven't even talked about art. You know, we're talking about something or a project we're doing. We're talking about comic books or a movie, or you know, he's dropping one-liners on me. You know, there's no telling. You know, it's the same with Casey Christopherson, the art director at Frog Guy. He's an old friend of mine, and you know, he and I can, you know, I'll call him or reach out to him about a project or about something specific, and then, man, we don't even get around to it. We're just talking about a bunch of other stuff.
Totally.
Noble Dwarf, I'm hoping for Gamehole Con as well. And I think, Levi, did you say that you were going to try and get to Gamehole?
Yeah, I've never been to Gamehole before, but I'm a big fan of Alex, and I know that if he does anything, he does it well. So I'm really interested to go to Gamehole and, of course, see everyone, you know, in our little social circle, and maybe grab a drink or 7. And just have a good time, see everybody. I think you know, after COVID and you know, not going to cons, it'll kind of feel like coming home again. You know, right. Be nice.
Totally. Ross
Although I did go to North Texas last year. It was me and 50 other people.
Oh, you did go to that one, did you?
I did. I already had my tickets, and you know, my family is from that area.
Okay.
And I thought, well, you know, they haven't shut things down. I'm gonna mask up. And I'm gonna go. We'll see what happens, you know. And it was really good. Everybody was very respectful, and you know, I met a lot of cool people and got into some games I probably never would have gotten into otherwise.
Are you going to go this year?
I am most definitely. I'm actually going like a couple days early before it even starts, just so I can kind of go and enjoy some barbecue and shop for some oddities and
nice.
Go do my typical text. Get my my mug of Big Red, and
nice.
Yeah, most definitely. You guys are gonna go, right?
To Texas,
Yes?
no.
No?
I've not even
Not
had
to
my
Texas.
shots yet.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jack's had his. I haven't had mine.
I'll get my second one. My second one next week, but I think I may have already had it, but they just did not diagnose it as COVID. But who knows? You know,
Right.
I got really, really sick. They told me I had pneumonia, but my wife, she works in the National Defense Health Agency. She's like, you probably had it,
Right.
and you just didn't know it. So
Right.
Fingers crossed, everything went well. So
Right. Strike is saying that she misses barbecue, especially ribs. Yes. Yes, indeed.
Yeah,
that
Texas
hearty
barbecue
barbecue.
is damn good, I will admit. Texas has
Yeah,
got
just
some
down
good
the-
food.
just down the street from the convention, that Hard 8 barbecue, man, it's ridiculous. And it's not like you can ever find the place that has the best barbecue. Like, you get to a certain level, it's all okay. It's just different kinds of good.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, all pretty delicious. I'm a fat kid, so I love that stuff.
Giving a shout out. She can't hear us. Phantom Jen, though. Jen Glazer is in the chat. She says the fantastic trio. She's on a plane currently and she can't hear what we're saying, but she's planning on rewatching this later. So, hello, Jen, for when you watch this on the rewatch. Hello. I don't know what that was, Alyssa. Okay.
That was me in the plane.
Oh, okay. Excuse me.
Something on the wing of the plane.
Talking about artists and everything, Levi, one of the things about social media that I've loved is actually how it makes it possible to contact and talk to, like, what was formerly just strangers, right? I always remember I was a big, huge fan of 2000 AD. 2000 and AD, you get the idea.
I know, I remember, yeah.
But there's a guy called Gibson, and he's done like the Stainless Steel Rat, Robo Hunter. He did Halo Jones, which I freaking love, the Halo Jones story, and he's there on Facebook, and I've befriended him one day, and he's such a humble freaking dude. He's just super chill, and he's just like doing his thing in life, and he draws artwork for fans, And he did Judge Dredd too for a while. He's got a very distinctive style, and I'm honestly thinking about contacting him, getting a piece from him.
For sure. No, for sure. And you're right about that, where you could reach out to people that you normally would never. You'd have to go to a convention and stand in line to meet them, or it would have to be a chance encounter, or you'd have to know somebody to kind of get into their circle. But now, I mean, you kind of everyone's circle of gravity. They're kind of meeting. Like I probably never would have met you, but I was a friend of Casey, who was a friend of Skeeter, and Skeeter's a friend of yours. So now we can sit down and we can have this long form discussion and just shoot the bull and talk about whatever. Where that would have never have happened before,
100%.
Like earlier, I was talking about the guy who was running that fanzine circle when I was 13, and I found him on Facebook like last year.
No
and
shit.
I hit him up. I was like, hey, it's me, the Turbo Nun guy. Like, remember me? He's like, no, but we still have some of those. So I got a hold of him, and he ended up sending me a bunch of those old zines that I had, my mother had thrown them away, and I didn't have. They were lost to me. But then he sent me a bunch of stuff, and it just going through that envelope. It was like pure, just nostalgia.
I was gonna say that must have been a blast from the past.
That's fantastic.
It's like when you that scene in Amelie where the guy finds a little box that he had when he was a kid. It was like that. I was just going through pages going, oh my god, the dopamine shots were coming one after the other. Yeah, it was wonderful.
That's and you get 10,000 points for name dropping Amelie. I would consider that to be probably one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. That's fantastic.
My top 5, yeah, for sure.
That's great. That's so cool that you bring up that scene too when she's able to track him down and get him back his little box.
Oh,
I don't think I've seen it, guys.
I am a terrible husband. I am sorry, Alyssa. We will watch it. We'll watch it this upcoming weekend. I apologize.
I was going to scream spoilers, But no, I don't think I've seen it. You remember in the early days of Netflix, and it would make recommendations based upon things you've watched and how you've rated them, and it was actually eerily on point. It would always recommend Amelie to me, always, and I'd still never watched it.
It's heartfelt without being sappy, or not dumbing it down or being simplified. It's just a beautiful little movie. Right. Does what it does very, very well. Again, it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, and it's kind of one of those weird.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, please continue. No, you go for it. You go for it.
When you look at the like favorite flicks, you're looking at like Raiders of the Lost Ark and Kill Bill or Star Wars. Whatever. My wife's like, what?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, 100%. I'm like Seven Samurai, Lawrence of Arabia, Empire Strikes Back. Amelie. It's like, what? One of these things is not like the other. Yeah. Totally. And it's funny because it's one of those, even if someone decided to tell me what the movie's about, it's like, well, it's not really about anything. The quirky, kooky adventures of this strange lady as she navigates life.
Definitely not a grindhouse film.
Right. No, exactly. Definitely not. Well, that would be a weird twist.
Yeah. She's got an eye patch, a shotgun. Yeah. There's a demon dog somewhere. Yeah.
So let's see. So Alex Vixen says yes, 2000 AD. Tharg would be disappointed for you getting the name wrong, Alyssa. Yes, she obviously knew the. Ooh.
Sorry, two cats squaring off against each other. I had to shoo one away.
Let's see. Beast Foolish in the chat saying that they got their second COVID shot on Wednesday, sore arm. So cool.
Awesome.
Just to get a sore arm, that's pretty good going right there.
Yeah.
You were talking about 2000 AD. Were you a big fan of those UK comics? Were you a big comic fan, Alyssa?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, no. Sorry, I was reading Alex Vixen's comments. Not really. I never really read comics. I read them for a short while. I forget what it was that I bought from my Fate. Here's a true moment. Here's a poignant moment with Alyssa. So I actually went to a God, what would they call it? Alex Vixen, help me out. But it was like a Fate. It was like almost like a marketplace thing, but it was a school that was doing it, and you'd get these little sort of tables set up with parents and shit selling stuff, and someone was selling comics, and I bought a bunch of comics because I did read a lot of 2000 AD, and on the way home, I was bullied by some boys, and they stole them off me, and it kind of broke the moment, it broke my interest from that point. But 2000 AD, I did read. I would get it all of the time, and so this is something that I kick myself for. I had every single one since edition 1 because I started to go back and buy older ones from friends and such. I had all of them up until 1998 without missing an episode in boxes, just every single one. And then I gave them away to a friend. And I think if you have those early ones now, they're actually worth something. I just gave them all away before I moved to the United States.
I was going to say, did you give them to them when you moved to the States?
Yep. Yeah. Oh. But no, I was never a big comic person, in all truth. In fact, I can name the comics that I would read on one hand. There was a Misty. Was one. It was really actually a comic geared towards girls. Really, really, really enjoyed Misty. And then there was 2000 AD. That was it. Those were the two I read.
Well, if you're gonna, as far as the pedigree of comics go, 2000 AD, that's a pretty good one to read. A lot of the UK writers that would come over to the States that got super famous over here, and artists too. Brian Boland and Alan Moore.
Alan Moore's a huge name. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's the one that actually wrote Halo Jones, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of those guys. And was it Grant Morrison? Is it Mark Millar? I want to say a lot of those guys, they got their start in writing in 2000 AD, or doing art, and then a lot of there would be stories that would run in 2000 AD that would end up getting their own comics later on. I want to say, was V for Vendetta? Was that one of the ones that ran in 2000 AD, or am I thinking of a different comic?
If it was, then it was after my era. I'm not familiar with that being part of 2000 AD, but it could be after I stopped reading.
I can't remember. It was serialized in some. It was serialized in some other comic before it became its own comic and finished up over at DC.
It looks like it was Warrior. That was the name of it.
Warrior. Okay, that's it. All right.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
There we go. They had this. There was a great one that Alan Moore wrote and Steve Dillon drew called Laser Eraser and Press Button. And Laser Eraser was a clone. It was like kind of an assassin clone. And then Press Button was this guy who had like a robot body and like the upper half of his and a giant meat cleaver for an arm. And the only way that he could experience any kind of like pleasure is he had a button on his chest that just said press. So you'd press it. So they said like every issue that he'd always get shot in the button, or somebody would sneak up behind him and push it, or otherwise he was a homicidal maniac. He just would chop people up,
Gotcha.
And that was to my 11 and 12-year-old brain, that was I was super dialed in on Laser Eraser.
But that was like Mean Machine out of 2000 AD. Mean Machine would headbutt people, right? But he couldn't just headbutt people. He's got a dial on his freaking head, and what you set it to is how hard he's gonna nut you. And once I remember, it would go like 0, 1, 2, 3 or something like that. And once he got stuck on 3.5, and he just went berserk. Like, why the dial? Why? But little old me watching that was like, hey, that's awesome. He's stuck on 3.5. It was great.
I thought you were talking about the movie Mean Machine.
No. This was a character. This is a character. In fact, they had him. So I think there was it Sylvester Stallone that did Judge Dredd to begin with, and they tried to jam a whole bunch of 2000 AD characters into this freaking film, including characters that didn't belong there. They had this one scene where they're clearing some rubble or some debris, and there's a robot underneath it or something, and it's from like bloody ABC Warriors, and he was like, Hammerstein, he's the leader. I said, but he doesn't belong in Judge Dredd. He was never part. There was no crossover. What the fuck?
And he doesn't even act like Hammerstein, which is
they're just trying to jam shit in. But Mean Machine was in that movie, if I remember correctly. 1 to 4 said Alex Vixen.
Yeah. Mean Machine Angel. Yes, they did try to bring him.
It's the Angel Gang.
Yeah, they tried to bring the Angel Gang into the Judge Dredd movie with Stallone, and it just didn't work out.
The Angel Gang was good writing. That was a prime example. The Angel Gang as a concept, the characters that they had in there, it was freaking awesome. As a kid, I loved that shit up.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for a good Easter egg in a movie, but sometimes they go a little far.
Right. Right.
I put Easter eggs in my adventure modules constantly, so if you're a fan of the grindhouse genre, you can pick through there.
Oh, nice.
You'll see them.
That's cool.
And most definitely.
That's cool.
Little shout outs to the other genre lovers.
Nice.
Other fellow grindhouse nerds.
Princess Strega saying that she was mostly into the Masters of the Universe comics, some Superman and Marvel, but not much. But she did have some Spider-Man underoos, yes, of course, as you do. Let's see. Beast Foolish says, I collected a comic called Shatter. That was the first comic where that was done on a computer. Oh, okay.
Okay.
Shane O'Mac says, I'd get comics at random when I was a kid. As I got older, when I could, I'd buy heavy metal religiously. There you go. Beast Foolish also saying that they too loved Laser Eraser and Press Button.
Yay, more fam. That's a deep cut, man. That's a real deep cut.
When I got to the States, I actually started collecting. Honestly, when I look back on it now, I'm like, what the fuck was I doing? Because I never actually read them. Like Levi, before the show started, you and I were talking about things we collect but don't look at. one of the things I used to collect was comics, and it started with Abby Chase, Danger Girl. And I've never read them, but I collected a lot of them. In fact, I even have a model that I bought of her. I was awestruck by Danger Girl quite a bit, but somehow that morphed into God. What is her name? It's like, I want to say Witchblade or something.
Oh, yeah, Witchblade. Yeah.
But it starts getting a little bit more sort of sexualized at this point, right?
Sure.
And then that went into Lady Death
and Dawn, all the dark. Yeah,
I've actually got a whole bunch of like limited edition Lady Death, sort of ones with the chrome covers. Because I would just go into the local comic book store, and that's all I give a shit about. I'm not reading them. I'm just like collecting them for like their covers and shit. And it's like, ooh, this one's got a chrome cover on it. Let's buy that. So I have a whole bunch of them, and I think one day I opened it up, and it's all like tits and legs and hips and things. I was like, holy fuck, what have I been buying here? I still have them, but yeah.
Yeah.
You put them in the vault in case there's a nuclear blast.
Put them in the vault, exactly.
Now, I was a sucker for comics, man. I was a comics kid from the time I was 3 or 4. I can remember, I was born in 74. Star Wars came out in 77, so I had to have been 3. And my mom bought me that big Treasury Edition Star Wars from like the Piggly Wiggly, and we lived in a very, very small town, very religious town, very, like I said, very, very small. And in the 70s, especially, they're just, you couldn't go to the store and get comics. I mean, they might show up again at the grocery store every now and then, or if your mom went out of town, she might stop at the 7-Eleven and get you one. But we didn't have a 7-Eleven, so it was like one of those deals where we never had comic books unless you got them at the Piggly Wiggly or at the used bookstore. There was a big stack of old comics. Oh, and the barber always had a stack of comics.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah. So you go in there to get your bubble gum and read, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, or World's Finest, or Marvel Tales featuring the Amazing Spider-Man.
Nice.
That was so I was a comic kid from day one. It's still to this day, I don't. My life doesn't revolve around comics or anything, but I still enjoy reading the older ones and the occasional new one. I don't buy new ones anymore as far as like regularly. I don't have a pull box or anything.
Right.
But if I hear about a good story, I'll go out and buy a graphic novel or a collection or something.
Right, exactly. That's typically what I do too. I hear like a run is really good, and I'm like, oh, that's great. So it looks like the collected edition will come out like the beginning of next year. I'll wait till then to get it,
Right.
So and then I'm that idiot who like a year later is like, this story's so good, and everybody who's in the scene is like, yeah, we read it a year ago when it came out. Where have you been? And I'm like, but I'm just reading it now. I want to talk about it.
I take that back. I do read one comic monthly, but it's more of a gaming magazine than it is a comic. Are you familiar with Knights of the Dinner Table?
Yes. By Blackburn.
Yeah, Jolly Blackburn, Kenzer and Company. I still to this day, I think it's the finest comic book magazine. Sorry, the finest gaming magazine, even over Dragon. A lot of people will have their own opinions about that, but for me, between the early issues of Shadis all the way through, the stuff that he did through Dragon Magazine, and then he does, almost 300 issues of Knights of the Dinner Table. It's just unprecedented, like this run that one guy and his team of collaborators has done. Like, it's a true accomplishment that these guys have really accomplished something, and it's still so good. Like, you read those little storylines, very simply drawn, but it's still so good. Blackburn's a genius in my in my field. Like I couldn't think more highly of that guy.
Nice.
He's a real artist, like a real outlier as far as stuff in this hobby goes.
Nice. Rossmere in the chat says, I think my very first comic I bought for myself was Justice League Europe from a little grocery store in my tiny town. I still have that issue. That's awesome. Beast Foolish says, my uncle collected the black and white TMNT series, much darker than the Eastman and Laird TMNT. Those were great. Those were great. And then, obviously they became a lot more mainstream.
Well, here's a fun fact. When TMNT released in England, they called it Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles. They didn't like the word ninja.
I remember reading about that, and I was always like, what's... Well, again, I was like, 80s kid. I'm sitting there going like, what's wrong with ninjas? Ninjas are awesome. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I was obsessed with ninjas when I was a kid. Like, probably by the time 84, 85 rolled around, and like ninjas started to become like real heavy into the pop culture.
Yeah, totally.
You started getting movies, grindhouse movies, like
yes,
American Ninja or Enter the Ninja or seven Faces of the Ninja or something like, whatever. All those little Sho Kosugi movies. Then you had like G.I. Joe had the whole ninja storylines in them, where Snake Eyes was a ninja.
Oh yeah, like those were the coolest storylines. I mean, the hell.
And then they even had ninja magazines you could go out and buy. And my friends and I, we would go again to like the Piggly Wiggly, and we would comb through the magazines. Oh, hey, there's Better Homes and Gardens, Good Living. Oh, Ninja Magazine #1, and it was full of the biggest bunk of crap you'd ever heard. Basically vehicles to just sell 10, 11-year-old kids ninja suits and weapons and throwing stars. But in our minds, like, ninjas were so cool, and even to this day they remain extremely nostalgic for me. So even when I go back and watch those old like kung fu theater movies, every ninja shows up, I lose my mind.
Totally.
I just love it.
I want to say one of the first ones I remember watching as a kid. I think maybe it was my uncle had it on either Betamax or VHS. I don't remember, but it was the Chuck Norris film, The Octagon.
Yes.
1980, and it was like Chuck Norris fights freaking ninjas. I mean, that was the movie. And I just remember being like,
literally the plot of the movie.
And I mean, and at that point, I didn't really know Chuck Norris at the time. I was just like, all right, so cool. So like American dude's gonna go just fight a bunch of ninjas. But I just remember being like, even though he's supposed to be the hero, I'm just like, ninjas are cool, man. It'd be like, ninjas are badass.
Chuck Norris is like a big deal now. Like, it's
right.
It's kind of part of pop culture. But the first movie I ever saw that I can remember seeing Chuck Norris in was The Octagon.
Nice.
And I remember he didn't have a beard at all. I remember he's clean shaven, and he's just kicking ass and all. And then there's the one ninja that had like the weird tiara.
Yeah.
Wearing. And there's that movie had the weirdest sort of like I don't know why they made this choice, but they would have like, instead of like dialogue, they would have like Chuck Norris or like one of the characters when they were thinking something,
the internal monologue going on.
Yeah, it would be whispers.
Right.
So and it would be like echoing whispers. So it would be like,
yeah,
brother. And it was just so ridiculous.
Right.
But then that plus the ninja with the tiaras, and there's like the training compound with like traps in it. You're just like,
right. Yeah. Watching it now, you're just like, this is bananas. What is happening?
Pure gold now. Like, oh yeah, the stuff that grindhouse dreams are made of.
Yeah, exactly.
I loved all that stuff, man. I'm still a sucker for anything out of the 80s or late 70s like that. All those was it? They had Enter the Ninja. They had Ninja the Domination.
I don't think I know that one.
Oh my gosh, no, the best. It's like the best first 15 minutes of a film ever. It's basically a ninja kicking ass on a golf course. Like, he's running around like just killing people, just like assassinating people on the golf course, like jumping out of the reeds, out of a tree, water with a blowgun. And then
put this on the list. Alyssa, we're watching it also this
weekend.
I'm
down. I am freaking down.
Well, listen, just watch the first 15 minutes.
And then you're good. Okay.
Then you're good. You can probably find it on YouTube.
Like,
somewhere.
He literally grabs a golf ball and he crushes it in front of this guy, and it turns to sand. And I'm like, wait a second. When did golf balls get made of sand?
That doesn't even make sense. They're not even filled with sand. What the hell?
what is happening? You know, it's all about like the spirit of this ninja overtakes this young woman, and she becomes the ninja. And she has a red suit, and you know, it's ridiculous, but
Nice,
so wonderful at the same time.
I'm with Alex Vixen. The first time I saw Chuck Norris was in Enter the Dragon.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, you're talking not Enter the Dragon, but
the other
Way of the Dragon.
Way of the Dragon, I thought. Yeah.
With Bruce Lee?
In the Coliseum, where they're in the Coliseum.
Yes.
And
Yes.
The cats are running around.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, again, wonderful.
Oh god, yeah. As a kid, lapping that shit up, and I did not know who Chuck Norris was, but I was enraptured by this fight sequence going on. It was awesome.
Nice.
Well, if you ever like have a spare afternoon to kill and you want to watch some really crazy kung fu films, I heard you name drop Master of the Flying Guillotine earlier. Oh, watch House of Traps. Have you ever seen that one?
I don't know if I've seen House of Traps.
Another ridiculously awesome. Of course, there's Five Deadly Venoms.
Oh, of course, I love the Venom films for sure.
And then my favorite kung fu flick of all time is 36 Chambers.
I was gonna say 36. That's like the premiere one that the guy who runs the Kung Fu Theater at the Hollywood Theater. That's like the one. I think it's like it's the first one in January that he shows to kick off the year. Is always 36 Chamber Shaolin for sure. That's the one that he always kicks. And then the Halloween one is always the Brides of Dracula one. The one that they did where actually was Lee in it, or did he have to drop out? I forget.
Are you thinking?
But Cushing is in it though. It's the it's like Dracula.
The old
versus,
Hammer horror.
Yeah, it was the one where it was the Shaw Brothers did a joint effort with the.
Lee was in it, I think. I think you mentioned Lee was in it.
I think he's in like the first before, because Dracula transforms like in the very beginning. I think it starts off as Lee and then he changes into the Chinese version of Dracula. But Cushing was in it as Helsing, I believe.
Oh, nice.
And it's Dracula versus, oh God, what is it?
I think it's like the Seven Brothers.
Yeah, it's like the seven. Yeah, it's exactly. You know the one I'm talking about.
I've seen the poster.
Yeah, that one's a great one. It's so good. It's so, I mean, well, you know, in the style that we're talking about, it's good in that it's bad, but it's amazing.
Levi, if you were ever in Portland and it happens to be like a time where they're showing something awesome on the Hollywood, we need to go because you would lap this shit up. It was like, I think every Tuesday is a Kung Fu Theater. Is it every Tuesday, Jack?
It was either every other Tuesday or it was like every first Tuesday. I don't remember.
And everyone's there for the same reason, to watch a bad Kung Fu movie. It's so bad, it's awesome. And the guy digs them out of his personal collection, and they're all on, like, you know, fucking, Jack, help me out, tape.
Oh no, it's all the actual film reels. He actually he's
nice.
the guy who runs it. He's actually the he's the guy who schedules all the movies. Like he like, you know, sets the schedule for everything. But yeah, a lot of the Grindhouse stuff is he actually has the actual film reels like in his personal collection, and they're all in, you know, they're in the original 35 millimeter, you know, things. And he himself is actually an editor as well, so he'll actually go and restore. Like he'll buy like some shitty copy like from some dude who's like lives in Brazil, who's like, I was going through my grandpa's attic and I found these old ass reels, and he's like, I'll buy them off you and I'll restore them myself. Give me
right now.
And I am doing it. You know, he's amazing. He's a good dude.
Well, this is what a sucker for. If you look at that, like, if you recognize the PX symbol there.
Yeah. The Shaw Brothers. That's fantastic.
Brothers.
That's fantastic. Oh yeah, Beast Foolish Kid with the golden arm. Oh, that's great.
Oh, another good one. And One Armed Swordsman was another really good one.
Yep.
There's one that you couldn't show it now, but it was called Crippled Masters.
Oh yeah. I think we actually saw it under I think they called it Crippled Avengers when we saw it. Yeah. That was another Venom's film. Yeah.
No. This is the one where the guy has no arms and the other guy has no legs, and they're Kung Fu Masters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the actors are all the Venom's actors. They're the 5 Venoms. Yeah. Yeah, they're all. It's not one of the Venom films in that it's them, but it's all the same. They've all been rearranged. Like one of them's like the villain in that one, and then they like rearranged who's the comic relief out of the group.
No, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, that one is great. Especially at the end of it, it's funny. Like at one point, like I think I don't remember if it's the guy who has the replacement legs or if it's the guy with the replacement arms. But one of them is suddenly way more OP than he should be, and is able to just like decimate like the bad guys. And we were like, why didn't they just lead with him? Why did you send in the guys that have the schlubby crippled powers? Lead with the guy with the super legs now. Ever since he got his legs chopped off, Jesus criminy.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to watch those the early cuts of that because they're the special effects are so bad, and the guys really don't have any arms and they really don't have any legs. So it's very clear that they're using stand-ins, for the limbs.
Right.
Really. There's one more I have to bring to your attention. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Oh my gosh, it's Drunken Wu-Tang. If you've never seen Drunken Wu-Tang, don't watch the movie.
Oh.
But Google the clips. Just Google Drunken Wu-Tang clips. And there's one with a watermelon monster.
What?
I know this sounds incredibly insane. It's not an actual watermelon monster. It just looks like, they don't know what they're making as far as it appeals to an American eye, it just to us at the time it just looks like a watermelon. So just look up Drunken Wu-Tang watermelon monster and prepare to have your mind blown at how ridiculous and awesome that clip is.
Yeah, doing a Google search for it, I look up Drunken Wu-Tang and it goes, do you mean Drunken Wu-Tang 1984, Drunken Wu-Tang full movie, third one, Drunken Wu-Tang watermelon monster.
I love it.
That's fantastic.
Well, and we got our clip of the show when Levi explains it's not actually a watermelon monster.
Right.
Yeah, it's when you see it, you'll understand what I mean. Like the special effects are they're very basic. they're not breaking the bank on those, but yeah, again, huge lover of all those Shaw Brothers films, and just all the offshoots of that stuff too. So that like when Kill Bill came out, like some people were like, this movie's I don't get it. Like what are they what's the crazy blood effects and all that? No, man, it's the perfect homage. I was so happy with that movie.
Well, and that's one thing I know some people don't like Tarantino. I adore the fucking guy, and I think he has this marvelous ability to capture the spirit of whatever era or setting he is trying to do. He did the same, I think, in Django Unchained, But yeah, Kill Bill was on point for that shit. He knew exactly what he was going for.
It's a love letter to Kung Fu cinema. I mean, from up, and not just Kung Fu cinema, but like samurai cinema too. Like all the, Boatman at the Sticks and all the Lone Wolf and Cub. Sort of samurai assassins, what's the movie? Samurai killer movies, all that stuff. Like, I mean, from the effects to the whole feel and the vibe and the aesthetic, man, he's so dialed in on that stuff, man. And again, like you say, you adore the guy. I'm right there with you. He's a true fan of these genres and of the whole movement. And I don't even think the resurgence of grindhouse cinema and the love that it gets now, I don't think it would be here in any form that we recognize it as now without him.
Right. Yeah, because he definitely pushes he pushes the genre and the aesthetic in his films and in things that he produces. Even if he doesn't have any direct involvement in it, the things that he decides to put his money behind is totally in that vein. I love it. Princess Strega saying, Dust Till Dawn is one of his that she's a really big fan of, and that's very grindhousey too.
Yeah, that's Robert Rodriguez directed that, but he's in it, and he did a bunch of writing, like punch-up writing for that. And you can tell too, like right. I mean, Robert Rodriguez is a genius, anyways, in his own right. But you can tell when Tarantino puts his fingers on something, like what was that movie? Hunt for Red October. He did script punch up for Hunt for Red October before he made it big. And there's little things in that movie, like the bit with like where the guy, the one of the radio men, like Silver Surfer, that never would have made it into to the movie had he not specifically put that in there, you know.
Right.
Like in what is the one with Christian Slater?
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
True Romance.
Yep.
True Romance. Yeah. 100%.
So much of True Romance that is just pure Tarantino, you know.
Right.
A true fact about True Romance is the first time I saw it, I actually came in I want to say about 10 minutes in. It was one of those, you know, before the internet or whatever, before streaming, you just flick it through the channels and True Romance was on. And I started to watch it and I instantly got hooked. And about 10, 15 minutes in, I was like, this feels so much like a Tarantino movie. This is fucking awesome. But I had no connection to Tarantino, like, at the time. Like, he had done this. And it was only after the whole thing was done, and I'd watched it, and I fucking loved it. I think his name comes up in the credits. And I was like, okay. No wonder it felt like Tarantino.
Yeah, he's the screenwriter, exactly.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much crossover between his early stuff, especially. And then he kind of harkens back to it and puts little Easter eggs for his older films and his newer films.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool the way that he builds this kind of like weird extended universe without it really being an extended universe, you know?
Right.
Like, there's a callback in Reservoir Dogs for the character of Alabama in True Romance, you know,
right,
where they're talking, hey, what about Alabama? Oh, she ran off with so and so, and you're like, oh, that's what happened after all that, you know. And you're like, oh, it's kind of cool that he kind of puts that stuff in there.
Yeah, totally.
Nice. Again, he is the cinema geek's cinema geek. You know, he's
totally.
You can if you love movies and you just nerd out on that stuff like I do, then when you get a guy like Tarantino or like Robert Rodriguez or Edgar Wright.
Yeah, Edgar Wright's a big one.
Guys who just you can tell they really, really love movies.
Right.
And they have stories to tell. You know?
Yeah, James Gunn's getting up there for me too in that regard. I mean, the stuff that he's putting out is even his mainstream stuff. It's like you're able. It's like he's a guy that I don't know. James Gunn's a guy. I don't know how he got into mainstream. I literally, because if you look at his stuff, it's like, but his non-mainstream stuff is either so weird or so off the wall, and it's like, who the hell gave this guy a shot at doing some mainstream big franchise Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad? It's like who does that? I mean,
you remember Slither?
Yeah, no, exactly. That was the thing. It's funny enough. He's actually, because the anniversary for its release was not too long ago. So he on social media, he's actually been sharing a lot of behind the scenes shots, of Rooker and all the makeup, looking all skeezy, because he has that, it's a blobby monster, and it was so great. But yeah, I mean that was what he kicked off with, and not only that, but he actually worked a lot. He worked with the with Troma Pictures with stuff, and we'll talk about some low budget, skizzy stuff. I mean, it's like,
I'm very familiar with Troma.
That's it's like, that's, and this is the guy who's doing the latest DC movie, really? It's like, holy smokes.
I mean, but a lot of people have come out of Troma. The South Park guys, Matt, they came out of the Troma stuff. I mean, there's a handful of other directors too that have gone on to that just started. They got these intern jobs. It was their foot in the door to get into Hollywood. To meet, kind of help climb some sort of ladder to where they could get their movie funded.
Right.
You get one. They got their shot and they made the most of it, and now you're James Gunn.
Now you're James Gunn. Exactly.
Yeah, I love stories like that. Weird. Right. If you had told me that Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be a good movie,
right,
20 years ago, so this guy's going to come along, he's going to make the most killer Groot movie. I'm like, the tree monster from Thor, what? Oh yeah, he's gonna put Drax in it, and then Gamora, and then oh yeah, and Star Lord is gonna be he's gonna be this guy, but
Yeah, that was the thing. And then not only that, but then making especially because that was one of those things where I have a very spotted comic history myself, where I didn't have anything solid, and so when it was like the next Marvel movie is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy, it was very much like Joe Hansu in that film going, who? I was like, and so I looked him up, and I was like, I've never heard of these people, but I looked him up, and here I am looking at some blue dude with a red fin and a bow and arrow, Yondu, and I'm like, who the freaking hell is this? And what do you mean Michael Rooker is playing this weird dude with a fin and a bow and arrow? How are they going to make this work? And sure enough, talking tree and raccoon movie.
I'll watch Rooker in anything. He going all the way back to was it Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer? Yeah. From that on, I mean, when he showed up in Mallrats, I was like, what? the serial killer dude is in Mallrats playing like the
asshole dad, exactly.
Like, what? This is amazing. Yeah, he's my favorite part of that whole movie.
Nice. And yet he was in, what was he like? Was Mississippi Burning? He was also in with Hackman.
Anytime that they need an evil racist with a thick accent, they hire Michael Rooker, and he kills it.
Right? Yeah. Exactly.
You need a guy to be a piece of crap in your TV show or a movie.
Right.
He's your go-to bad guy.
Yeah. Walking Dead. We need the bad brother of the cool guy with the crossbow.
Yeah.
So who are we gonna have to be his demon on his shoulder? Asshole brother.
No, totally.
Rooker. We got him.
Yeah, he's a gem, and apparently just the nicest guy in real life, from everything I've heard. So,
which is always funny. It's always funny when you hear that. It's always like the character the actor who's able to play the most twisted, messed up, whatever character in real life. It's like they're the nicest person. I'm like, where did they pull that from? That's always like the joke too. Like, comedians are usually the most depressed people in real life. It's like, how where are you pulling this energy from? What's happening? Princess Strega in the chat is saying that she'd love to see Tarantino do an Evil Dead movie.
Oh man, can you imagine?
Lord.
Oh man, can you imagine?
Lord. That would it would be the Evil Dead with the best dialogue ever.
I want to see him do a science fiction movie before he quits, before he hangs it all up, because he's done like these action movies, he's done love story, he's done kung fu flick, he's done a couple westerns, but then you get the one western that's kind of a horror movie too. So I would really like to see him just take on science fiction, and then for them to go, listen, we're going to back a truck full of money up to your house, just do whatever you want to do, because we know that you always produce magic, so just here's the keys, go do what you do.
Supposedly he had a script for a Star Trek.
Yeah.
Do you think that's ever going to come to fruition, or do you think?
I mean, if they like money, they will. If they like, entertaining things, like what has he ever made that was bad? Nothing.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, he makes so much money for everything.
When you're batting, 1,000 out of 1,000 all the time, and you're literally, you don't put out a movie but once every 3-4 years, and you're still the most popular director. Right. What does he have to do to convince people? Just let him do whatever he wants to do.
Exactly.
Like he's a Stanley Kubrick level of director.
100%.
So one of those guys that only a couple of them come along. Every generation. You only get a few of them. And he's the one.
JB saying coming in saying, "Ooh, shots fired! This is a shots fired! Shots fired!" JB coming in. Tarantino should take over the Star Wars franchise. I mean, at this point, anything would be an improvement. Am I right? Well, that's that everybody has their opinion about it. It's all good. It's all good.
I like Star Wars. I like Tarantino. Why wouldn't I like a Tarantino Star Wars movie?
I say, man.
Look. I mean, who thought Jon Favreau was going to make something as incredible as The Mandalorian? I didn't. I liked Elf. I liked Chocolat. But was I expecting him to come with the most Star Wars movie or Star Wars thing you know, in a long time? Nope, but he did, and it's fantastic. So
yeah, it was kind of one of those things when it was like the guy who pretty much single-handedly kickstarted the MCU wants to do a Star Wars show. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
You know, let's do it. You know, and he's got Dave Filoni on his side, who's pretty much even though he doesn't get the credit he deserves, he basically was the heir apparent from a Lucas to create Star Wars stories. That's the guy who's going to be your head writer on your show as well. Okay, let's do it. Yeah,
yeah,
sure
that attention to detail is just ridiculous. It's just, it's so, and their casting is so good. Everything is so good.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, and
you can't mess with it.
That's one of the great things with the fact that now Disney has kind of embraced the whole digital releases thing. They could do either a film or a show that Tarantino is show running. You know, go for it. Do whatever you want in the Star Wars universe, past, future, whatever the hell. 8 episodes, knock yourself out, or you know, a 3-hour movie, knock yourself out.
Like when you're a talent like that, like they should just let him do whatever he wants to do. It doesn't matter if he wants to go back and redo Star Wars. Just let him. Right. It doesn't diminish the first one. It's only going to be another cool movie, you know, like unless he specifically wants to just torpedo the whole thing.
Right.
Which he doesn't, you know, like, you know, he's got his own brand of perfection, his own level of stuff, you know. He can do whatever he wants to do, man. He's earned that at this point as far as his talent and the stuff that he's made. He's like Jeff Easley. He can do whatever he wants, you know.
Exactly. You know, that's actually a good point, because, you know, think of it, people that were all up in arms about him doing the Star Trek film, because it's like, oh, people that are like too protective of Star Trek. But it's like, okay, if he wanted to do it, he clearly loves it. And if he loves it, he's not going to ruin it. He's going to try to do something that makes it better. Mm-hmm. That's what he wants to do, you know.
And you know, when I saw an interview where he was talking about this, and he was saying he wants to go back and do like the '60s style, you know,
nice.
like you remember was it Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, how he's doing the westerns? He's doing the TV westerns.
Yeah.
And how authentic they looked and how authentic it felt, and you know, Bonanza, you know, they kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, he'll do the same thing for Star Trek because he clearly loves it. You know, like, just let him do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Don't you like money? Yeah.
Well, on that note, we've actually been going a little bit longer tonight. This has been a really easy conversation, but I do want to be really respectful of everyone's time. Levi, it has been incredible to have you on the channel. We've got a lot to say to each other. We need to have you back.
Well, anytime, and you know, hopefully I'll see you guys at the whatever next convention we're all at, and the drinks are on me for sure.
Oh, you know what? You're down. You just said that publicly. Absolutely. That's gonna.
It was a great hang. So thank you for having me on. Absolutely
wonderful having you here. Everyone, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. Really, truly appreciate it. Lots of people out there. We're gonna work probably the same map tomorrow night, and then Wednesday we will be doing Age of Ancients. We're going to be returning to the drawing of the mega map, as I've been calling it. So tomorrow night, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time, we are back here. Until then, thank you for hanging out. Thank you Twitch subscribers, and a huge amount of love to my Patreon supporters. Always, always, always appreciated. So thank you. Until tomorrow night, we'll see you all on the flip side.